What's up, y'all? It's your boy Chris Kane back again with another Dolphins Daily, aka your daily dose of Dolphin Talk. And so we have a pretty big episode today because we had off-season media availability. This is where the GM and the coach sit in front of the media and just field questions and kind of give you a preview of what we're going to do next year and how we feel about the year that just happened. So, as a Dolphins fan, we all kind of feel the same way about the season that just happened. Disappointing. There's no other way to say it. I mean, 8-9, missing the playoffs. When last year you were in the playoffs. Disappointing. The one thing I was struck with immediately, though, is that the energy from the two of them seemed it was a little somber. They didn't seem like, yo, man, we just did it because why would they? We just had a bad season, right? But it seemed like we know what just happened wasn't acceptable. But what I didn't hear necessarily is that we have a strong solution to fix it. So that was my immediate takeaway. Like, there's a lot of, this is a 35-minute press conference, so they said a lot of things. But what I was struck by was they're not giving me, it's not giving energy, but what's giving was, hey, yeah, we know, we hear you guys complaining. We know things aren't the best in the world. They talked about the backup quarterback situation, which has been a big thing in Miami talk. Why was Skylar Thompson the backup? Why sign Mike White? Then cut him and end up bringing in Tyler Huntley, who doesn't know the offense. And, like, why are we in this situation when you know Tua has been, one, just injury prone, two, concussion prone? How is this our best backup solution? And Chris Greer said, we were in the running for a lot of backups, including Joe Flacco, and we got outbid. Okay, it's good to know we were in the running, but fans don't want to hear you got the silver medal. Because if you told the Dolphins Tua's going to make 6 games and we're bringing in Joe Flacco to back up the team. Now, again, Joe Flacco had a good run with Cleveland and then it just completely tanked in the playoffs. Even this year with Indianapolis, like, he's had a couple good games and a couple of woof. But is Joe Flacco better than Tyler Huntley? Yeah. Is he better than Skylar Thompson? Yeah. I mean, we don't need to debate this. And I think the idea is that if you have an injury-prone starting quarterback, you have to have a really strong backup quarterback. You got to be. Like, it's unacceptable to say, we didn't have the money, we got outbid. You can't get outbid when Tua's your quarterback and he gets hurt almost every year. That doesn't make any sense. And even if you had like a Browning or, I mean, if Huntley was the backup maybe all year and wasn't just picked up later and he got to know the offense all year, maybe. So that was a big point of, hey, the backup quarterback situation will be addressed. I guess we're going to find some money in the offseason. Get some money fair. Hey, Stephen Ross, we need money. And then money's going to fall from the sky. We're going to get some money at some point. But then he also mentioned that, hey, Tua, you can't be a Superman, which I think a lot of the fans see. Because most of Tua's injuries have been him, like, running around, right? Like, he's running around, throwing his head into people. Like, he'll throw a pick and try to make a tackle. We don't need that. We need you to stay healthy, stay upright, don't be a hero. So I think he's in the right place there. Because we all kind of feel the same way. Like, Tua, like, he didn't want to wear the protective helmet, yet he still wants to go out there and throw his head around. Like, relax. We need you to stay upright. But the biggest takeaway for me was Coach McDaniel talking about the locker room situation. And this was kind of a weird one because people talked about, hey, the team's behavior has been a little erratic. You've had guys getting fined and this and that. And he had a quote, and this was a damning quote to say the least. So Coach said, I can fine people till they are blue in the face. I can take their money. I can yell at them. But until they understand that part of the reason that we're in this position is controllable, and what we have to have with absolute certainty is a zero tolerance for anything else. We have to clean up the controllables, okay, and we can have a chance to have success together. I don't know how I feel about, I don't think he's wrong, right? We all know these guys make a ton of money, right? So we know there's like, you can't tell somebody, hey, you guys make a lot of money. We all know kind of what the vibe is. But the idea that, hey, I'm doing my best, but they're not listening. That's what it felt like. That's not exactly what he said, but it's not what he said. Like, he did not say, hey, I'm doing my best and these guys aren't listening. That's not what he said. But he kind of said, what can you do? And this has been trending this way in sports for a long time. It happened in basketball where players started getting all the power. People say it's the LeBron thing. I think it started with the Celtics, but that's a different conversation for not Dolphins Daily. But where players just said, hey, we're going to band together and play together. Hey, I want this. And now in the NFL, these guys are making so much money that it's, all right, $25,000 fine, whatever. $50,000 fine, whatever. Like I make $800,000 per game. These little fines, and we're not gonna let you play. Like, all right, who cares? Do I still make all pros? Do I still get my checks? Do I still get the adulation of being an athlete? And he's right about what this is indicative of. Is basically the culture is not where it needs to be. That's what this quote really was to me. Is that the culture of the Dolphins is not great. I've mentioned this before in previous episodes that I feel like the culture that was attempted to be created was one of like fun, and it's basically Mike McDaniel. The coach, for the most part, is a culture in most cases. Like sometimes maybe top ownership, but generally the coach is the personality. And Mike McDaniel's a mercurial, quirky, kind of interesting, weird kind of guy. In all respect, I don't want any smoke with Coach McDaniel, but like you hear when he does interviews, it's a little uncomfortable. It's a lot of a lot of pauses, a lot of I'm gonna make weird little thing. But he's a football savant. He's a genius. So what he does in terms of coaching the game is great. But what he is as a person is kind of a little bit looser. Like there's like rap in the locker room. Like he's quoting lyrics. He's just a different dude. Like Coach Harbaugh, the Chargers version of Harbaugh, is also just a different dude. Like, oh, this guy told a story about I remember when I was born. It's like that's weird, but that's also on brand for him. But what he also is like tough, hard-nosed, run the football defense guy. And so the Chargers in a year became, hey, we got this 6'6" quarterback with a rocket arm. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play defense because the coach is that. And Coach McDaniel was kind of looser, a little bit more freewheeling, which is cool until the wheels get a little shaky. The wheels start coming off the ship, and all of a sudden it's like, the car. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, this car is not road tested and road ready. It's like, well, yeah, we need to shore it up. And I didn't hear a solution on his end. I mean, saying we just zero tolerance, we have to do better. Those are the right words to say. I don't know what the culture change looks like. Like, I don't know what he's going to do tangibly to change things around. I think that sounds like there may not be some guys coming back next year. And I don't know which players individually have been fined over and over again and just won't, like, act better because they didn't really specify. But if you see some people not come back, if you see bigger fines, take more of your money, I think playing time hurts a lot of guys, but they're still making their check. Who cares? I don't know. But it sounds like where we are now, this season, isn't going to work for next year. So we got to do something different. I think it starts with the culture. I honestly think it starts with the construction of the team. I think the team is constructed to be cool, hip, fast, and they should be a little bit tougher because the teams they want to beat are all tougher. Like Buffalo, we know they're tough. Baltimore, don't get me started. The Chiefs and Cincy, not really. But the top three teams all kind of play the same way. And if you want to throw the Chargers in there as the fourth team, they all have the same thing. Great quarterback, solid defenses. They play tough. They're hard to beat. And right now, Miami is, if you play us in Miami in like the middle of September, we got you. The minute that calendar changes, everything kind of falls apart. So we'll see. I think I'm happy it was addressed, but I don't know where we go from here. And the biggest thing that came about was actually post press conference. This is on a radio show, talk show. Super agent Drew Rosenhaus, who we all know because he's Tyreek's agent, in addition to like basically everybody else in history from T.O. all the way down. Drew Rosenhaus decided to give a quote on the status of Tyreek Hill on the team. So you guys remember Tyreek after the game was a little distraught, maybe in his feelings a little bit. And he talked about, how I don't know, I got to open these doors, and I'm used to making the playoffs. And he was giving indication that maybe he's not fully invested in the team. So Drew Rosenhaus came out and decided to do some cleanup. And the quote is, Tyreek is very passionate. What you see with Tyreek is very genuine. He wants to win. It's not good enough for him to make the playoffs. He's very passionate. Again, I think at the end of the day, he's committed to this Dolphins football team. He had a he had an exciting. He had an excellent meeting with Chris Greer and Coach McDaniel. So I don't know if that means Tyreek wants to get traded, doesn't want to get traded. What it sounds like is if he does want to get traded, we shouldn't be saying it today. This doesn't make any sense to say it today. It's just going to devalue your trade value, and you're probably going to get moved to a team you don't want to get moved to. So this is one of two things. Either Tyreek was just emotional, he got a phone call from the big boss and said, "Hey, I was emotional. It's been a rough year. I just let it slide. I just let it slide out." Or he still wants to get traded, but Drew Rosenhaus, being an agent, knows trading a distressed asset is a worse trade bargain because now instead of getting first, second round compensation, you're talking maybe third, fourth round. I mean, Randy Moss got traded for like a fourth round pick and then had 23 touchdowns the next year. So it, that's what happens because Randy Moss didn't want to be where he was. And, well, who's going to take on this head case? Tyreek has given most teams in the league every indication it's going to be kind of a headache for me to be around. I'm an amazingly talented player, but it even looks like now, and maybe this is part of the injury, so we need to see next year, if he's not ultra cheetah fast guy that's so much faster and better than everyone else that you kind of put up with the nonsense, and he's just fast receiver that's going to start getting injured with tons of off the field stuff. Oof. I don't know what kind of trade piece that is. That's maybe a 1 year rental, 2 years max before this story doesn't end well. It doesn't end with if Tyreek played till he's 37 years old and retire happy. That's not how this season. That's not how this story ends. What you want to do is grab up as much of the good and try to get out before the bad. And I think Miami needs to figure out next year, especially if you're trying to rebuild the culture, is this kind of behavior part of the culture you want to have going forward? And I think a lot of it's going to be based on what can we get back. Because if someone's offering a fourth or fifth round pick, then you probably just put up with a headache. If you get a high second, maybe a low one from a team like the Chargers, a team like the Bengals, who maybe might lose T. Higgins, or some scenario where a team thinks we're ready to compete, the Chargers think we're ready to compete right now. We're not going to draft anybody better than you, but we can kind of keep up with you for a year, maybe. But if he's popping off and doing reckless stuff here and there, it's not going to go well, and no one's going to want to trade for him, and Miami's going to be stuck holding the bag. And so what I hope is that Tyreek can lock it in for another year with the Dolphins, and then I would trade him next year. But I don't work for an organization. I work for you guys. And so thank you for tuning in once again to Dolphins Daily. Hopefully this was a quick little recap of the post-conference and, a little bit of the Dolphins season. If you want to see the whole conference, it's on YouTube. Feel free to watch the whole thing and let me know in the chat what you thought was the most interesting parts about it. And we'll be back next time with more Dolphins Daily.